Hello, everyone. Welcome to our She Talks forum, Nourish and Flourish. It's the last month of summer, and we want to help you move in the right direction towards cultivating self-love and a healthy lifestyle. We are hosting a conversation focused on inspiring women not to fall into diet culture and patriarchal ideals and how to take care of themselves. We are doing this in collaboration with the Wellness Project, and we are so excited for you to hear from our guest speakers today. For the agenda of our forum today, we'll be starting off with a brief introduction before we dive into self-love and mental wellness. This will be followed by a quick 10-minute break, which will then continue with the topic of women's health and nutrition. Before we get into the fitness and healthy lifestyle segment, we will have another short 5-minute break with guided stretching exercises. We will end the forum off with an open discussion where we will answer any questions that have been submitted into the chat, or feel free to unmute your mic and ask the speakers directly. The forum will be recorded today, but kindly let us know if you would like us to pause the recording before your question. We will begin this event by acknowledging that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, which is covered under the Williams Treaties of 1923. This traditional territory of the Mississaugas is a branch of the Greater Anishinaabe Nation, which includes Algonquin, Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. We recognize and appreciate their historic connection and contributions to the community, as well as the province and country as a whole. This place is and will remain as home to Indigenous people, therefore we must proceed with respect and kindness. As settlers, we recognize that acknowledging this land is just the first step of many towards justice for Indigenous nations. She Leads was created when Enactus Ontario Tech was identifying certain needs in our larger social environment, and we noticed a lack of female empowerment opportunities. She Leads is a women's empowerment organization designed to connect and empower females in the Durham region. By giving women a platform to share their voices, we hope that she leads, she empowers, and she succeeds. The Wellness Project aims to raise awareness, promote positive mental health, educate and encourage students to reach out for help while promoting a peer-to-peer approach where students can seek mental health aid through their peers. To start off, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Lori Short-Zanito. Lori has a holistic view on self-love and mental wellness, as she is the founder and registered dietitian at Unapologetically Me, as well as faculty of health sciences and wellness professor at Humber College. We'll be starting a master's of professional education in diversity, inclusion, and social justice stream at Western University. As well as being a loving mother of two. Please go ahead, Lori.
Hello, I'd like to say welcome to everyone. I'm moving on to share my screen, so you're just going to have to give me one quick second as I am not speedy. All right, here we go. So yes, my name is Lori. I am a registered dietitian, and I have been for about 15 years. So one of the things that I've learned over those 15 years is that our body plays a very huge role in how we take care of ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And so I just want to start by saying the privileges that I have. I'm a white cis hetero individual. I live in a smaller body. I am able-bodied. And I do live with chronic illness, even though they are not apparent to anyone who comes up to me. So I am aware that there are some blind spots when I'm talking about bodies. And I just want to make that really open and honest to begin with, because I think it's something that we sometimes feel that our lived experience is the only experience that can occur. And our lived experiences are really, really important in our own stories. So I'm going to talk a little bit about lived experience and bodies. I titled this slide Reframing Body Image for the Entrepreneur because I was kind of thinking of what do we as predominantly female identifying individuals have to kind of go through when we go through business, and because we're going up against the patriarchy and how we look. Just as a random aside, I'm reading this really great book now. It's called Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia by Sabrina Strings. It's phenomenal, but it talks a lot about how internalized fat phobia has been happening since the 1700s, and it has a lot of racialized origins. So if you're interested in this topic, it's a phenomenal read. So I like to refer to our bodies as our earth suit. It is the thing that we are going to have with ourselves from the beginning of time, essentially, until we are no longer on this earth. We can't go to our favorite store and trade it in. We can't be like, hey, do you know what? So not trendy right now. Can I get this model instead? We are kind of built with what we have. I like to refer to us as cake. Personally, I'm a big fan of cupcakes, so I use the cake analogy a lot. I'm not going to lie. And every recipe makes a different cake, even though the basis for the recipes are very similar. So if you are chocolate chip cake, you might be a cake with chocolate chips. And then you take that same and you can add confetti. And then you're like confetti cake with chocolate chips. So just these little ingredients change the way things look, the way things taste. And so it also happens with our bodies. Our genetics play a very, very huge role in what our bodies look like. We are kind of told from birth, not kind of, we actually are told from birth that as female identifying individuals that we are to look and present ourselves in a certain way. I want you to take a really deep breath because sometimes this can be a difficult thing to think of, but so think of a time you manipulated what you ate in order to appear a particular way in front of someone that you were either, meeting for the first time, or you're at a job for the first time. Or think of a time you tried to manipulate your body to make yourself look a certain way. As a registered dietitian, I have always found that people look at my body and think that I should be quite thin, that I should look quite athletic, that I should have quote unquote look like a healthy person, whatever that means. And so it's very stereotypical of this female identity. I have actually had clients come in and look at me and say, oh, do you know what? Your body's kind of not what I want to see in myself. So I think I'm going to find someone else. We have this idea of if our bodies look a certain way, then we will be successful. We are sold this from birth. So are you actually accomplishing your goals if you're spending all your time focusing on manipulating yourself? So this is where I like to talk a little bit about what does body love mean. I personally, I'm not sure we ever can love ourselves 100% of the time. I adore my children. Heard in my bio, I wrote that I'm a loving mother. I think they're the greatest things in the universe, yet loving them 100% of the time, there's moments, I'm not going to joke, that I'm just, yeah, you're good and I'll need a break. And I think it's also, that can be said about our bodies. Our bodies can do things that are amazing, but then there's days our bodies kind of suck, right? They get tired. They don't bounce back the way we want them to. If we, went for a workout, sometimes it hurts the next day. Or when we get sick, or if we have chronic illness, a lot of the times it's really hard to love that body when it's doing something that you don't want it to do. So I like to talk about working towards body acceptance and body autonomy. So this is the only body you're going to have. That's not going anywhere. And so what if we accept that this is what I've got? I can work with my factory settings and spend my time doing what makes me happy, and pushing for the goals that I have outside of my body can get me there. And so when I think about talking about bodies and in work, and for example, with the She Leads and the Wellness Project, they are talking about how do we, conquer, right? We want to conquer the world, I feel. And so if we can do that, what do we need to take away? Because we only have so much time in a day, right? Well, what if we take away all that time that we spend thinking about how I don't like my body, or thinking about how I can change my body, or how to plan for the next diet that I'm going to do, Or how am I going to, keep up with such and such, right? If we take away all of that time that we spend on that, think about it. Do you spend more than 5 minutes a day trying to decide what to eat, how you should exercise, whether you should eat something or not? Have you done enough? Have you quote unquote earned your food? Take away all that time. What if you took all that time and put it towards your business? What if you put it towards a passion project? What if you put it towards something that just made you happy? And so we might not always love the body we're in, but once we accept the body that we're in as much as we can, then we can start to move ourselves forward and really reaching for those goals. And honestly, probably about 3 hours ago, I could have quoted this perfectly, but now for some reason it's eluding my mind. But there's a really great quote, and I can't remember who it is from right now, but you can't smash the patriarchy starving. You need to be nourished. You need to have energy. You need to be clear of thought. And so when we spend a lot of time, restricting our intake, which I will talk about when I talk a little bit more about nutrition, but focusing on foods and focusing on what you're not doing, you're not spending that time focusing on the things that you could be to be getting ahead in your career, your life, or whatever project it is you're working on. The other thing that I find is when we talk about bodies and body love, food comes up a lot, but then exercise comes up a lot. And I know we have a really amazing speaker, Jessica, later that's going to talk more about moving your body. But I also think when we talk about body image, we really need to talk about movement as well. Movement can be joyful. If you were to think about, I don't know, high school gym, and for anybody who loved high school gym, I'm not meaning it's terrible, but I wasn't a big fan. I didn't want to do that beepy thing where I had to run from one side to the other and get there before the beep. That was not fun for me, right? That is kind of what I thought of physical activity. I loved playing certain sports, but I hated other sports. And so it really didn't teach me, the joy of moving my body. I personally am a person that likes to run. I didn't start running until after I had my second child. So I had him when I was 33. And I knew I wasn't going to be fast, but the greatest thing happened. I could put in headphones and I could listen to songs with swear words, and I didn't have to worry about babies being there listening, and no one talked to me or asked me to do anything. And it was the greatest thing in the whole world. For me, that was what running brought me. It brought me that joy. And it's something that my kids are 12 and 9 now, and I still do because it's something I do all by myself. I talk all day when I'm a professor. I talk all day with clients. I talk all day with kids. I can sing random songs from the 80s, which is what I ran to this morning, and it brings me joy. Some people, when they talk about running, it is the worst thing that ever happened to them, and they rather lay down in the side of the road and just say no. Then they shouldn't do that. Maybe they like moving, maybe they like dancing. I'm a terrible dancer. My husband leaves the room when I dance. I'm like Elaine from Seinfeld. If anybody's old enough to know that meme, that is me. And so I wouldn't do it, but many people do. They love it. So maybe you should dance if that's the movement that brings you joy, right? Find this that you don't need to go to the gym. And I'm not knocking gyms. I personally don't like the smell of them. The sweat and rubber thing just isn't a scent I enjoy, so I don't go to them. But that doesn't mean I don't lift weights. Like I can do them at home where it doesn't smell like rubber and sweat. And so find something. You don't have to do the newest cool thing on Instagram workout person. You don't have to do hot yoga because that's the trendy thing right now, right? Diet culture is a $30 billion industry. Essentially, it is created to fail, because if it were successful, whatever that means to them, you wouldn't need to keep going back to it. So if you are doing things that you love, that makes your body feel good, you're confident, and you're going to stand straighter. You're going to have eyes on you because you do things that bring you joy, and think about and doing things that make your body happy and your brain happy, so that when you're out in a meeting, you're going to have that air of confidence because you're more comfortable in your body. I like to say yoga is another thing that I started doing that I don't like doing in group settings because I find people can get a little competitive. My personal experience is like, oh, they're doing this, I can do this. And then you can't walk for 3 days after. I personally like doing it in my living room, but hey, again, just me. But I find it very much in like, ooh, I can feel parts of my body that I didn't realize were there. And then I appreciate those parts of my body. When you are trying to learn to appreciate your body, even doing little things every day, like what was one awesome thing my body did today? And my clients will often say they have their awesome journal where I tell them, if you can find one awesome thing your body did, write it in your awesome journal. If you can find one food today that was super awesome that made you happy, write it down. And so this is just to kind of create that different image that we often do the opposite, right? It's like, oh, my butt. So that's basically the way my body is. You can't see it on the screen. But I'm about 3 sizes bigger on the bottom half of my body as I am on the top half of my body. And so I remember getting teased from like as young as 8 about my butt. It's a thing. If I had been born later, it probably wouldn't have happened, because if you look at history of body size, right, we always have like bodies that are kind of a little bit more trendy. So being in elementary school in the 80s when super waif thin was more popular, that was the thing. But anyways, so I had to learn how to appreciate the things my butt could do, essentially. So it has really good padding so that when I teach online, I can sit and be comfortable, right? There's a thing I can write in my awesome journal. I have arms that can be very expressive when I talk in person, which is I'm actually sitting on my hands right now pretty much so I don't whack my microphone, right? Positive things that your body can do. And then you start to think of all this great stuff that your body does, and you think less about the, oh, but if my thighs were smaller. This is another thing that I like to say to people a lot of the time, is that your degree doesn't have your weight on it. It doesn't have your math on it. It doesn't have how many diets you've been on. It doesn't have the size of your jeans on it. So what do any of those things have to do with you being successful? What you put into the world is you. You are an amazing human who has all these incredible ideas, and you can do so much, but you need to get out of the way of wanting to change your body to fit the male gaze, essentially, in order to be successful. If you go back in history, you'll see some very successful women who, if you look at the way they dressed and you looked at their bodies, they tried to fit a certain paradigm of being a little bit more masculine, wearing pantsuits. And I'm not trying to use gender binaries in that. I'm just trying to prove the point that they were trying to, like, they didn't just be them. They tried to fit into a certain thing. And so again, if you just want to take that step back and go, oh, my legs can walk me up the stairs to the 12th floor of this office building to go talk to the boss with my great idea that I have, as opposed to my legs need to go on the treadmill for 30 minutes so that someone would like to look at them, right? That is one way of kind of reframing. That way we can look at our bodies. Another thing that happens, and again, I'll probably talk about this a little bit more in the nutrition section, is when we are entering the world of business, I can speak from the dietitian perspective. So I used to joke that I thought that dietitians all wore scarves because every dietitian I ever worked with had like a big scarf on all the time. And so I used to call it the dietitian uniform, and I couldn't figure out why. And then one day I was just like, I wonder who started it. And I wonder why we all felt that that person was like what we held up to be the ideal of this profession. And we all kind of followed suit. So I went a different direction. I get asked all the time if I'm really a dietitian because I have, bleach blonde, half-shaved head and tattoos and piercings, and I wear running shoes or Docs all the time, and it's just the way, that's what I like. But I don't have that stereotypical kind of look. And I think that sometimes we try so hard to have that look, to fit our bodies into that look, to fit our bodies into the clothes that are made for that look, that we lose a bit of ourselves. I got so much better at my profession when I learned how to be comfortable in my body, when I learned how to walk in a room and be comfortable in that, and know that everything I needed to say and do came out of my brain and my mouth, nowhere else. It came from my heart, yes, but it came from the inside, not what anybody was looking at the outside. And I think that that's a really, really important kind of thing when we talk about, loving ourselves, is that I know my worth. I know what I can do. I know what I can say. And it actually doesn't matter what my bust size or my hip size is, in order to do that. I move my body because it helps my mental health. I move my body because it makes me feel good. It reduces my stress. I don't do it to burn off calories. Like you never earn your food. And so I think that one of the big things is just learning how to sit in your body, in your space. Never diminish yourself. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to take up as much space and as much air as you need to when you're walking in a room. And don't ever try and make yourself smaller. As I've had many clients say that they'll go into meetings and they'll always eat less food than the people around them because they don't want to be seen as fill in the blank whatever you think it is. There's a lot of research now being done on weight stigma and fat phobia. One of the main things that you'll hear is that people express that larger bodied people or fat people are considered lazy. And that's another reason people work to manipulate your bodies. That's actually not true whatsoever. There's no statistical science that has shown that. You can be lazy at any size and you can be motivated at any size. But some people feel the need to create their bodies to be a certain size because they're afraid of being perceived a certain way. And we need to work to change our culture behind that. And so that's one of the things that I would love to change in the world, but I think we need to change it in ourselves first. We need to know that my body doesn't tell anybody whether I know how to do Harris-Benedict equation and figure out someone's intake needs for a tube feed, right? That doesn't tell anybody that. My hair doesn't tell anybody that. The clothes that I wear. We could talk for days and weeks and years about clothing and companies that make sizes, and oh my goodness, it makes me so angry. But you should wear clothes that make you feel comfortable in that body. And that is part of loving your body and appreciating your body, is putting clothes on it that fit. And I remember doing this in my 20s. So I'm just going to say that I have really good data on this. Buying a size smaller of jeans because you think that if you work hard enough, you'll fit into them. I had a lot of really expensive jeans that sat in my cupboard for a really long time because, I couldn't get into them. I thought someday I would. And then it just made me feel crappy. But maybe if I just bought the jeans in the size that fit, I would have worn them and I would have felt kind of awesome because I wore them. And so I think it's one of those things that, again, when we talk about bodies and moving our bodies and loving our bodies, we have to be very aware of the stew that we live in, that is diet culture, and how it bangs up against us all the time and in many things that we do. And in work, it really is everywhere. Not to sound like such a downer, but you need to know how it's affecting you in the decisions that you're making and how it's affecting you and the choices that you're making for yourself. Because in order for you to be the most successful version of you, what I think you need to do is come into your body, know what your body feels like, know what makes you feel good, what makes you happy, and project that out. I make it sound really easy when I say that in a sentence, and I'm fully aware that it's years and years and years of work. But starting with that little bit of, what makes me feel good? What makes me be me? What makes me be happy? And I'm just looking at the clock and I know that they're going to cut me off. So I was trying to pay attention to time. I can talk for hours and hours and hours. And so I'm just looking at my slides to make sure that I kind of hit everything. So a little activity besides an awesome journal is 2 activities. Sorry, I know it's summer. I like to give homework. I'm a professor. Would be to catch your thoughts. How many times a day are you asking yourself, have I earned this food? Because you earn food by existing, just so you know. Am I exercising to manipulate my body? Or am I trying to change myself at all to fit into the situation? Or am I just trying to take up space that I need to take up? So I think that those are really nice kind of key things to think of, as well as an awesome journal. Honestly, I love like bright, glittery, fabulous things. And Wonder Woman. So my awesome journal is a bright, glittery Wonder Woman journal. And, you know, it just moves around my house randomly. And I write, ooh, like some days my toes hold me from falling on my face. And that's the only positive thing I can think of my body doing. But still. And then when you have really bad days, you pick up your awesome book and you read all the amazing things your body has done for a year. And it can really, really help with that aspect. So it is now 6:26. And I think we're moving into a break because everyone deserves a break.
Yes, thank you, Lori, for helping us reframe our views on body image. As Lori said, we'll be taking a quick 10-minute break, so go grab a snack, some water, take a minute to stretch. And if you have any questions for Lori, you can type them in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Okay, I was like low-key vibing to that music, sorry. So now we'll be moving on to the nutrition and health aspect of our talk. Lori is a registered dietitian with almost 15 years experience in the field. For the last 4 years, Lori has also worked as a professor at Humber College in the Wellness Cluster for the Faculty of Health Sciences and Wellness. Please go ahead, Lori.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going back to sharing my screen. Yes, I think so. How techy am I? There we go. All right. Oh, look, I did a slide. So thank you for having me back. I hope everyone came back after having a snack. I wonder what you had for a snack. That just makes me curious. I'm always curious about what people eat. One of the big things I find with nutrition, so like it was mentioned, I've been a dietitian for almost 15 years. There's been a lot of change in nutrition in 15 years. It's a very new science. One of the things that I think people need to be aware of is that everybody eats. So everybody thinks they're an expert. And now that social media, I really date myself when I say that, don't I? But now that social media has really blown up and there's influencers all over the place, and, you know, people like to talk about what they feel has worked for them. No one ever really defines what work is. I think in culture, we've defined work as weight loss when we talk about food, but I don't know why we've gone there. So we have a lot of people talking about, you know, I eat keto, or I eat paleo, or I eat Atkins, or I'm doing intermittent fasting, or I'm eating bananas only, or I don't even know. There's so many things. Basically, they're all the same. I'm going to be completely honest with you. They all boil down to the same thing. Well, one of two things. You're either going to go high protein, high fat, low carb, which will make you just feel full for a really long time. And it will cut your calories, or you're going to restrict your intake and it cuts your calories. And every time we do this, what happens is that our bodies go, oh my gosh, there's a famine. There's no food available. I am going to drop my resting basal metabolic rate less because I want to stay alive. The human body is so freaking smart. it essentially wants to live. If the body didn't take care of it ourselves when we don't have access to food, then we would have died like with the dinosaurs. So what your body does is it has all these mechanisms in place for when you don't have enough food in it to slow down your basal metabolic rate, so that your heart will beat less, so that you don't heal as well. Whole bunch of things go together. And then when you do eat, your body goes, we found food. And it takes that food and goes, okay, I don't know when we're going to eat again. So we need to make sure we store this food for later. Hence the diet cycle. So restrict, 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 low basal metabolic rate. Some people lose some weight. They go back to eating normally. They gain weight and then some, because we have this thing called the set point theory, where your body is pretty much genetically set at what its happy weight is. Oftentimes our view of what society wants our bodies to be and what our genetic bodies want us to be are not always the same. So we fight our genetics. And then we go through this deprivation, weight gain cycle. And oftentimes people can actually diet themselves into larger bodies because of so many years of restricting intake. I would actually argue with many people who say that people don't know how to eat. I think that part of the problem is we've lost our ability to eat intuitively. So when we are born, for anybody out there who has seen a baby eat, they scream their heads off when they're hungry. They are tiny little balls of thunder that let everybody in the vicinity know that they need food, and they really don't care who gives it to them, just someone give me food. And then they eat. And when they are done, they move their faces away from the nipple, whether it's breast or bottle, and they're like, no, I'm done. I don't need anymore. And if you try to put it back, they will spit it out and they will start to scream again. Then baby goes off and does its sleeping, pooping, whatever baby wants to do thing. And then baby will start screaming again. Baby's hungry, feed baby. They go on this cycle. We start to introduce food to them, solid food. And then what happens is our adult living in diet culture brain starts to get a little wonky and starts to think, who knows better what this child should eat, me or the child? So then some people get stressy when baby doesn't eat whatever food you give them or whatever happens. And that is when our relationship with food starts to kind of take a bit of a nosedive. Then if you went to school in North America, it's the only place I went to school. In fact, I grew up in a small town just outside of Oshawa, so very close to Ontario Tech. And we would start school in the morning and the bell would ring and it would be like snack time, and we would eat snack, and then we go about our day and the bell would ring again. It'd be lunchtime. No one asked us if we were hungry. No one ever said, 20 minutes before the bell rang, do you want a snack? You ate when you were told. So we stepped away from eating when we were hungry and we ate to other people's external cues. Then as we age, particularly with female identifying bodies younger, they start to be really talked about and judged. Oh, look, you're growing. Oh, look, you have this baby pudge. Oh, don't worry, you'll thin out when you get taller, right? There's all this chatter and all this starting to manipulate our food. So again, we're listening to those external voices as to what we should be putting in our bodies and eating. It's very interesting. I see the age group I usually see for clients is about usually 14 to 24. Although I've started seeing people in their 40s and 50s who have the same stories of, I can still remember the teacher that told me about this diet, or I can still remember the parent that told me, oh, do you know what, you're getting a little chubby, or, ooh, do you really want to wear a bikini, right? Those comments start when we're little and they start to affect how we eat. We don't eat oftentimes to what our body wants. Think about it, always before you think about something hard, I would advise taking a very big breath and letting it out, and think about the last time you ate something just because you wanted it. Just, you were hungry, you had access to that food, and you ate that food without thinking about what's in it, about thinking about the calories of it or the fat grams or the protein grams, or I don't know, is I think macros is still a thing without counting your macros. When was the last time you just ate it? So I often tell people my two favorite foods, one is not really food, it's coffee, and the other one are peanut M&Ms. On my desk at Humber, I have one of the graduating classes a few years ago bought me this massive candy dish that they all signed and filled with peanut M&Ms. I have this, and it's big, it's like bulk barn big, stash of peanut M&Ms on my desk, which, side note, I totally finished 2 days before quarantine happened, and I'm so excited that they're not sitting there waiting for me to come back because that would make me sad. And people say to me all the time, how do you not just sit there and eat M&Ms? Because they are my favorite. They're my favorite candy. And I will literally eat 5 or 6 a day. Like, but they sit beside me for hours and hours on end. It's because I've never deprived myself of them. I know that whenever I want a peanut M&M, I can eat it. I don't have to do anything to eat it. I don't have to go drop down into plank. I don't have to take off something from lunch. I know when I want it, I will eat it. Therefore, I don't ever feel the need to overeat it. Have what we call Last Supper mentality. And if you've ever dieted, you might have done this. So it's okay, everyone starts Monday, right? So the Sunday night, I am going to have, let's say, pizza. Pizza is another food I love. So let's say pizza. I am going to have pizza because I am never, ever, ever eating pizza again. So I'm going to have it tonight for dinner. So you don't eat let's say you normally eat 3 or 4 slices of pizza. You don't eat 3 or 4 slices of pizza because you've now told yourself you're never, ever having it again. So you eat the pizza, which is cool. If you choose to eat the pizza, totally eat the pizza. But then you feel like crap after because your brain's telling you, oh, I'm a horrible, horrible person. I should never have done that. It's like somehow you're morally off because you ate this food in abundance. And then you get up the next morning, you're like, I'm never eating pizza again. So days go by and you're not eating the pizza. Weeks go by and all you can think about is pizza. It finds that things smell like pizza. People look like pizza. You want the pizza. You drive, you get the pizza. And again, you eat the whole entire pizza because you finally have it and you will never, ever eat it again. So this is what we call the restrict binge cycle. And this happens with so many different foods that we tell ourselves are bad. You don't go to whatever your version of hell is for eating anything. You should just know that. There's no moral factor to food. In fact, if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food is on the bottom with shelter, air, water. So things that sustain life. We need food. We need food in variety because we need many, many different nutrients in order to meet all the requirements that we need for health. We are not koala bears that can get everything they need from one leaf. The other important thing about why food tastes good, it's so we eat it. It's a concept that I think people struggle with because when we talk about joyful movement, we should have joyful eating, I think. When was the last time you sat and you took a bite, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing I've ever put in my mouth, right? And just felt the joy of it without thinking, because I'm eating this, I can't X, Y, and Z later or whatever. Without any guilt. You should never have guilt when eating. Food tastes good so that we as humans go back to it frequently in a day. If food didn't taste good, would you want to take the time to go find it, make it, eat it, and do the dishes after? Probably not, right? Because let's be honest, it's effort to eat sometimes. Less effort now in our day and age. Well, maybe a little bit more right now because of things not being as available and open. But, we're not hunters and gatherers anymore. We're not going out and, spearing a dinosaur and eating it. I'm aware of the fact you're all thinking I have no concept of history because I keep saying dinosaur. But we don't have to do that. We have pretty easy access. But if it didn't taste good, we wouldn't do it. Think about one of the things you hate doing the most in the whole entire world. I hate cleaning the bathroom. I hate it. Hate it. I will literally close doors and be like, maybe we just won't go in here anymore. I will pay my children to do it. I don't want to do it. There's nothing fun about it. It doesn't bring me joy in any way, shape, or form. So I don't want to. I will get other people to. Eating can be the same. If it didn't bring you joy and pleasure, you would not want to do it, which is why food tastes good. That's why certain things just taste phenomenal. Actually, bodies, when you're really hungry, so if you think about when you go to a restaurant and you're waiting, and I know most of us probably haven't been to a restaurant in a while, but you're sitting there waiting and you can smell the food. Like think of your favorite restaurant, and we only usually, most people don't vary what they order. So pick what you would usually order. And when you smell it and your mouth is watering and you're so excited and you sit down at the table and your senses are heightened. Actually, your sense of smell and your sense of taste are heightened when we're really, really hungry because our bodies want the food to taste extra, extra good. So you take your first bite and you're like, so fabulous. And your second bite and you're like, greatest thing ever. And by about bite 6 or 7, it doesn't quite taste as good. It's still good. But then as you're starting to get full, like comfortably full, you're like, it's not going to taste quite as good as it did before. It's because your body is now like, okay, I now have energy again. I now have sugar. I now have fats. I now have protein. We're good. You don't need to finish this. Oftentimes we do because we were grown up in the clean plate mentality where we were told we had to finish everything on a plate, which is a totally thing for a different day. But that is why food tastes so good in the beginning, and that's why we eat. The other thing that we need to think of is if we are predominantly female representing individuals, is that there are some nutrients that bodies need. So actually anybody that has a uterus, so whether you identify as male or female, does need increased iron. And so there's 2 different types of iron. There's heme iron and non-heme iron. Heme iron is the iron that comes from animals. Non-heme iron is the iron that comes from plants. Non-heme iron is not as easily absorbed in our bodies. So if we are eating a plant-based diet with not a lot of animal products, we need to make sure that we are eating foods that are higher in that non-heme iron and pairing it with a food that contains vitamin C. So spinach easily comes to mind, having it with mandarin oranges. I don't know, in order to increase that availability. Uterus containing individuals also need more calcium because of our hormones. You build your bone density into your mid to late 20s. After that, your bones are about as dense as they're going to get. And it's like a big bank that you are just taking money out of for the rest of your life. So oftentimes I find people don't eat enough calcium containing foods until their mid to late 20s. So we're not having ample time to lay down a really firm bone matrix. So we want to make sure that we're having foods that contain calcium. In North America, we often talk about dairy foods as having those. There's also non-dairy foods. One thing I just like to tell everybody, if you're doing like like the nut milks or like rice milks or any kind of those alternatives, you need to make sure that you flip the jug upside down and shake it really, really good for about, I don't know, 1 round of happy birthday in your head. Because calcium is often added and vitamin D, which I'm going to talk about in a second, is added, and they sink to the bottom because they are actually heavier than the liquid. So you want to redistribute it out through the liquid, or whoever drinks the last cup is going to get the gold. So you want to just make sure you do that every time. If everyone listening lives like in Canada predominantly, we don't get enough sunshine from what would be considered Thanksgiving here until May 2-4 weekend here because of the angle of the sun and how it hits. So vitamin D can actually be made in your body through your skin from sun. It's this really cool process. Again, like I said, body's super, super cool. Process that happens through the sun in the liver, but we don't get enough. Plus, I don't think it's really ethical for me to say, hey, in the middle of summer, go lay out and get tanned and cross your fingers and hope you don't get skin cancer. And so taking vitamin D is particularly important because vitamin D actually helps with the absorption of calcium. So Canadian recommendations are 400 international units of vitamin D a day. You will see many things and people recommending up to 1,000. per day. So that would be something that if you're thinking of supplementing anything in your diet, vitamin D would be the thing that I would consider probably the one that you would want to, because foods that contain vitamin D are just not readily available. And again, in Canada, fortify our milk with vitamin D. Margarines have vitamin D, egg yolks have a bit. But again, it's just something that we find that we're all deficient in. In fact, and if you're living in Ontario, OHIP doesn't actually cover vitamin D as a blood test to screen for it anymore, because they just assume that everybody is low anyways and should be on a supplement. So that's what you should kind of be looking at. Then we're thinking about those key nutrients that bodies need, but we also really need just to make sure that we're eating. So if you've gotten into the habit of not listening to your body or pushing food away because it isn't time to eat or it doesn't fit your plan, taking a step back and thinking about what makes me feel good when I eat. What makes me have energy? What makes me feel revitalized? What gives me that feeling of tastes good in my mouth and I can get out and do what I want to do later? And really kind of listening to how your body reacts to certain things. People will often say to me, yeah, but if you just let me pick whatever I want to eat out of all the foods, I'm just going to eat cake all day. And I'm like, okay, eat cake all day and tell me how you feel. Most people don't feel that great after eating cake all day. In fact, most people would probably have cake twice and be like, oh my gosh, I need something else. A really good example I've heard many people say is, they go away on vacation and they eat a lot of fast foods or take out restaurant foods because that's pretty much all they had access to. And they're like, I just want to come home and eat a vegetable. It's like, you kind of proved my point that, these are all really great foods, but your body is also going to tell you the stuff that it wants and the stuff that it needs. We are just so trained to listen externally to what our bodies are told they wanted and not listen internally. If you take nothing away from anything I have said in the 40 minutes I've been talking at you, I apologize for talking at you. I think one of the key things I would want you to take is that your body houses all the wisdom that it needs. It knows what it needs to eat. It knows what it wants to move. Nobody on the outside can tell you that. If you can tap into what your body is telling you with regards to eating and movement, then you are going to be so much better off because you will have that positive relationship with your body and you will learn what makes it feel best. And when you feel best, that's when you can go out and do amazing things. So the wisdom is in you. We've just been trained so much to not believe it, especially as female identifying individuals. I find that we are often taught that we shouldn't use our voice, that we don't know better, that someone will always know better than us. You are the expert of you. No one else is. If you were to come see me as a client, pretty much I guide you in learning how to figure out what your body's telling you. I would never give you a plan. How do I know what you want to eat on September 15th? How do I know what you want to move like on October 1st? I don't. You will wake up in the morning and your body will tell you that day. And I think those are really, really important things to remember. You need to eat to nourish. You need to eat to fuel. You need to eat for happiness. Sometimes we need to eat for comfort. I call it pink tea, but it's really just tea with like 3 sugars in it. And for some reason it gives me the image of pink, but pink tea, so 3 sugars in milk. When I'm really sad, that just makes me feel better. And I think it's because that's what my grandma always made when I was a kid, right? We have those things that bring us comfort and joy in food. Just be open to them. Your body needs to be nourished and fueled to take on the world. And I know that there's so many of you listening right now that have big, amazing plans. If you get out of your own way, you can accomplish those plans. And I think that is amazing. Like, I would love to see the change that can happen in the world when we stop trying to manipulate our bodies into something someone else told us we needed to be. So I'm just being very conscious of time. I wrote it down besides. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening. And if anybody has any questions or anything, I know there's going to be time at the end. to listen, to ask them, and I will be here after Jessica talks. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Lori, for reminding us about, nourishment over weight loss. So we're gonna move on to like a very quick 5-minute break, where we'll be taking like quick stretching break led by Jessica, who will introduce after the break.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly share my screen here. Okay, hopefully everyone can see it. All right, so I know a lot of you have been sitting here, so we're gonna kind of be active, trying to a little intro into what I'm going to be talking about. So obviously a lot of you aren't on camera, so it's okay if you fall over, if you mess up, no one's watching, you're just watching me. I might mess up. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand up. I kind of have limited space, so I'm going to try my best. But we're just going to get up from our seat because we've been sitting here for a while, and we're going to do few stretches, just kind of getting our bodies moving because we've been sitting for so long. So first, we're going to start off with some neck stretches because obviously staring at the screen can be straining sometimes. So first, we're going to look ahead, and then we're going to turn our head to the side here and just hold it there. It doesn't matter which side you start on. And then you're going to the center, and then you're going to go to the other side. Great, and now we're just gonna pull your head back and hold. And downwards. Now we're just gonna roll our head around, so just let your head loose a little bit and just turn it. Now we're gonna do the other side, so just turn your head on the other side. Again, let your head loose. You might feel some little aches that you may have that you didn't know that you had. So we're just trying to get rid of those aches. And now, because we're all standing here, so what we're gonna do is you're gonna lift your hands up. You're gonna pull straight up. And you're gonna reach for the sky. Again, you may feel little stretches in areas that you didn't know, were aching or needed a stretch. So this is really good for you to kind of get your body, your blood circulating throughout your body. You're gonna reach for the sky, and now you're gonna bend to the side. So again, doesn't matter which side you go on, left or right. We're gonna go both ways. Okay, and now you're gonna go to the other side. Okay, and now we're just gonna go forward. So again, for this one, you don't have to go too forward. Like if you're not a flat back, I can't really do it right now because the space that I'm in. If you can't do a flat back, that's okay. Just go as far as you can and just hold that. And you're gonna come right back up. Again, reaching for the sky. Now we're gonna do a standing chest stretch. So you're just gonna unravel your hands, put them behind your back like this, and you're just gonna pull it back and push your chest outwards. And hold that for a second. Great. Okay, so now we've kind of got like the upper body, and now we're gonna kind of do some legs, because again, sitting along for a long time, you might wanna get your blood kind of circulating throughout your body. So what you're gonna do, I can't show you my full leg, but I'm gonna try as best as I can, but you're gonna pull your leg upward like this, and you're gonna hold here. I like to do a lot of stretches before I work out, especially when I go for runs, because it helps me not feel sore the next day, and it really allows your body to kind of start getting ready to move, which is really good. Now you're gonna pull your leg backwards. Hopefully you can kind of see me. Sorry, this is so hard. Be easier in person. Yeah, you're just gonna pull here. Again, you may feel like you're losing your balance. That's totally okay. Like I can tell you when I first did these stretches, I definitely fell a lot. So it's perfectly normal. Not everyone is gonna get it right off bat. And then you're gonna pull it down. Then you're gonna do the next side here. So you're gonna pull this up, hold it here for a second. And then you're gonna pull it back again, like the other one. Again, don't be worried that you're gonna fall, it's okay. Plus, I won't even see you. So if you fall, it's totally okay. No one's watching. Awesome. Okay. And then we're also going to do a quick stretch of the ankles here. So I would show you my feet, but it's basically my wrists, or like my ankles are kind of like my wrists right now. So you're just going to circle them out, kind of do circle rolls with your ankles there. Just kind of, again, moving your bones and your joints and stuff like that. Because again, you never know, it may need that stretch. Again, your body moves all the time, and it's good to kind of stretch it out, let it relax for a bit. Because whether you've been standing all day, sitting all day, whatever it is, you might want to stretch that out. And then you're going to do it on the other side. Just roll those out. Okay, and now we're going to do the same things, but with our wrists. Because again, I'm sure lots of you have been on your computers, have been writing, doing all sorts of things. You know, our body does everything for us, so it's important, again, to just stretch, take that time to stretch our bodies. All right, and now we're just gonna shake it off. So feel free, shake it off, get all those muscles loose, and we will start the next section. So I will just pass it over to Mariana so that she can quickly do her intro there.
Okay, that was awesome. Thank you, Jessica. So moving on, we'll now discuss fitness and a healthy lifestyle. And who else could we bring on other than Jessica Nguyen? A recent kinesiology graduate from Ontario Tech University, you may recognize Jessica through her former roles as president and vice president of the Student Union, where she has launched various on-campus initiatives, including the Zen Zone, located in the downtown campus 51 Charles Street building. This is a dedicated space on campus for students to participate in quiet, independent, and self-care activities that promote wellness and mindfulness. Since graduating, Jessica has decided to take her passion for fitness, health, and wellness to social media, where she hopes to inspire and motivate others. She's a huge believer in sharing her personal experiences and is excited to have others join her along her journey. Please go ahead, Jessica.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. What a world we live in where we have to share screens instead of doing it in person, but it's totally cool. We make it work. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen there. Again, I just want to say thank you again to She Leads as well as the Wellness Project for having me. I think that this is such an amazing thing that you guys are doing, especially with September right around the corner. I think that that's a new start for a lot of you. I know when we look at starting new goals, new things that we want to achieve, we often always like wait till January. And you know, why should we have to wait till January? Why should we wait till a new year? Why don't we just start whenever we want? And I think September is also one of those times that is really great for you to kind of just start over, start writing your goals and what you want to do and kind of plan ahead. So I'm really happy to be here and kind of talk on the section on fitness and healthy healthy living or lifestyle. So again, a little bit about me. I'm a recent kinesiology graduate from Ontario Tech University. A lot of you guys have probably recognized me through my roles with the Student Union, with working at the school, just kind of always being on campus. So if you've seen me, hello again. If you haven't seen me before, hello, and I'm happy to chat with you guys today. I have a huge passion for fitness and healthy living. Like, it's something that has been a part of me for quite a few years now. And before I go into the nitty-gritties of my presentation here, 2 years ago, I was sitting exactly where all of you guys were. I was, kind of in a place where I was just leaving, I was just about to leave an unhealthy relationship, and it literally tore me apart. Like, I honestly had no idea who I was. I was scared because it was like, who am I when I leave this relationship, right? Because when I was in this relationship, I completely lost myself. I had no idea who I was. And it sounds crazy to say, like, how do you not know who you are? Definitely sounds crazy to me when I think about it. But when you're in that place and you have no idea, like, it was just scary. And for me, that time, I looked to fitness as something that kind of was part of my identity. And I didn't realize it at the time until I started incorporating it more into my life. And really, it was fitness that saved me and brought me back to reality. It was a thing that kept me sane, that kept me gave me hope, gave me, you know, the confidence and so many other things to get through life. I thought like post relationship, I was going to do nothing. I wasn't going to get anywhere. Like it was such a hopeless time for me. And it literally happened this time 2 years ago. So if you are feeling like that, like I'm here to tell you, like there is hope, you have potential, you know, there is something ahead. So for me, I'm really here because I want to talk about my fitness journey. I want to share my secrets, my failures, my successes, because back then I kind of felt like I didn't have anybody. And so, you know, what I want to do moving forward and with my new platform as JO Fitness is to kind of motivate and inspire others that, you know, there is hope for you. There is potential for you. Like everything that you may feeling right now, I was most likely 100% feeling back then. So I want to talk about that and get into all of those experiences and how it kind of led me to my journey today. So before we go into detail, I kind of just want to do a quick overview because I think that there's so many important topics that we can talk about, you know, when it comes to fitness and healthy living, right? But I think that there are key ones that we should definitely talk about because I think that those are the ones that are important to people. And I'm always happy to chat about other topics should you want to talk to me afterwards or whenever you like. But I think that these 3 topics that I have here are very key and, you know, are feelings that you guys may want to kind of go deeper in about because I feel, again, no one really talks about these openly. And if they are doing it, you know, quietly, but I want to be able to share all of that. So some topics that I'm here to talk about is, you know, barriers to working out at the gym, making fitness a priority in university, and exercising during your period. So I'm going to go a lot into detail with these. And again, sharing my secrets, my motivations of how I've really made this a lifestyle. So let's just get into it. So I kind of want to make this more interactive instead of me just spewing. So I kind of want to start off with like, what are your guys' barriers when it comes to fitness? You can type it or you can, you know, unmute your mic, you can tell me, but I'm really curious to hear what your barriers are when it comes to fitness. So if anyone has to share, I would love to hear that. Hopefully I can see the chat here.
I think one thing that I've always had a barrier with fitness is like, where do you start and how do you get there? And I think it's just staying motivated because you see people are on different levels. Like you can see someone doing like a 50-pound weight and you definitely want to do that, but you definitely can't do that because you have to start somewhere. So I think it's just starting and getting to that point so you can not feel intimidated.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any barriers? I'm just trying to look for the chat here if anyone did put it in the chat.
For me, the barriers for me when I'm working out is just my biggest fear is when I start, I get super hungry and all of a sudden I start binge eating so much, and then the next day I'm like, oh, I should probably stay consistent. I can't because I like eating so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. I totally get that. I am always thinking about food even when I work out. So like, I totally get that. Okay, I got some of the chat here. Finding time during exam periods. Yep, judgment from others in the gym, losing motivation after a week or two. Long-term motivation, staying consistent, comparing myself to others. Yeah, so like as you guys can see, there's, you know, a lot of barriers. And what I'm here to tell you is that, you know, there's so many barriers and everyone's barriers are different, right? And then we do see some commonalities like fear of judgment, embarrassment. You're not satisfied with your results, so that's why you don't continue. You can't make fitness a priority. You weren't motivated to work out, unsure of where to start, scared of looking like Hulk, feeling experienced, intimidated by others, and really being a female too. Like there's so many more barriers out there. And what I'm here to tell you guys today is that all of these barriers I've been through. I've experienced it and I get it. Like I've been there, I've done that. And what I want to say is that it's possible for you to just overcome all these barriers, all these challenges that you think. I used to think like, one of my biggest barriers where I didn't want to like lift like heavy dumbbells. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to look like the Hulk, big and bulky. I'm not going to fit into my clothes and all of these things. And it was just so crazy because when I look at these list of barriers and when I talk to people about their barriers, and I was like, wow, I used to have all those things. But when I look now, I'm like, why were those things stopping me? Like realistically, why were they stopping me? Because I think that when you put these thoughts in your mind, you really prevent yourself from achieving so much. Like you literally have so much potential and you're only limiting yourself by telling yourself these thoughts. So with that, I kind of want to go into a lot of things that kind of helped me throughout my fitness journey and how I've stayed motivated, on track, and how I've avoided these barriers or these challenges that I've faced. And one thing I know for sure is just let go. Don't let these silly thoughts get to your head. You're better than that. When you start to kind of change your mindset, being like, yes, I can, like, why can't I? Like, you have a body, you have working arms, working legs. Why not? You know what I mean? And again, like I said earlier, I've been through this. I've totally experienced. I get where you're coming from, but you're only limiting yourself if you keep telling yourself. I read a quote recently where it was saying, how you talk to yourself matters. It's so key because when you fill yourself with these negative thoughts, it's holding you back. But the moment you start changing your mindset, the way that you talk to yourself, that's when everything is a game changer. I'm telling you, when I go for runs, which I've been doing a lot lately, I've been running long distances. It is tough to run like a 5K run, like, or for a full straight hour. It's really tough. And, there are so many times where I'm like, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore. But I've trained my mind to be so strong that those thoughts don't even come. Like they come for maybe like a second and then they're like gone out of the way. Like how in like Fairy Godparents or that Nickelodeon show, how like the little fairies poof and then they, disappear, kind of like that. So my thoughts kind of go in and out. Like I don't even give it a time of day because, it's really important that you train yourself that those are silly thoughts and you're just feeding into them and you shouldn't. Because you have so much potential to do and be better and all those kinds of things. One thing I also want to touch about is just to remind yourself that everyone in the gym has started from scratch. So all those people that you see that are really fit, that are really big and bulky, and you're like, oh my God, they can just walk over me kind of thing. And all that stuff, they've literally all started from the bottom and worked their way up. Everyone has been on their beginner level and has really put a lot of work and dedication and commitment, just like me, right? Like before I was kind of like nervous because I was like, oh my God, these people are so intimidating. Like they know what they're doing. And I'm just scared because like they have bigger arms than me or like, I don't know, all those kinds of things. And I just reminded myself like, hey, they've all started from the bottom up and that's all you need to do. All you need to do is just start. And that's really it with that. And just to keep trying and learning. You're not going to be perfect. I'm telling you, it took me years and years until I became consistent. Like one summer I was consistent, then school started, then I stopped. And then summer came around, I got consistent again. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be consistent during the school year. And then I fell back. And it took a lot of back and forth, but now I've reached a point in my life where I'm very consistent in my life because I just kept trying because not everything is going to work for you at first. So it's important for you to kind of experiment, see what works for you and what doesn't, right? Like before, when I first started working out, I would just do like the machines and stuff like that. I would just do things like, machines, weights, like light weights and all that stuff. And now I like bench press, I squat because I've decided to challenge myself. But in the beginning, I was just trying things and seeing what works for me. And then once you kind of find what you're good at and what you're comfortable with, you can build yourself up. So just keep trying and keep learning. And again, we've all been through it. Everyone that you've seen at the gym who you think is intimidating, we've all been through it. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. And just moving on as well, I know a lot of you have also had this fear, like everyone's watching you, and that you're scared that, oh my God, like that guy's watching me. I'm so nervous. What if I mess up? What if I drop something? Like, I totally get it. Been there, done that. I was like, oh my God, like, can people not look at me? But I've really, I've taught myself this like funny trick, which I kind of is funny, but kind of not at the same time. But basically, I have like a tunnel vision where I just like am completely blind to everyone else. And if anyone in here in this chat right now have come up to me at the gym, sometimes I won't notice you at first because I'm so in my zone and I've literally blocked everyone out. Like I literally pretend that I'm blind, like I can't see anybody. I think that also why I developed this like kind of technique or whatever is because back then I used to have glasses, and now I have laser eye surgery, so 20/20 vision. But back then I had glasses and I honestly couldn't see sometimes because maybe my glasses weren't clear or whatever. I was just blind all the time. I was walking around blind. So when I came to the gym, I just pretended that I was blind. I couldn't see anyone. And so when people come and say hi to me at the gym, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I missed you. But that technique really helped me when it came to working out because I just pretended like no one was watching me. And it was really great because I just focused on me and the gym. At the end of the day, you're just there for yourself. You're not there for anybody. And if anyone's looking, like let them. You know, sometimes for me, like when I know when I work out beside guys, like they're like, oh my God, like why, like they kind of give me a look like, why is this girl like working out beside me? And I'm like, whatever, like my arms are as big as you. Or I like to pretend that my arms are bigger than them. They're probably not. So I kind of also use that as a motivation to tell myself like, oh, if he's gonna lift 20 pounds, so am I. I mean, not all the time, but you know, there are some guys that I find are intimidated by me because I can lift as much as them. But I, again, use that as motivation because we're all equals, like male or female. Like if you're lifting that much, I'm going to lift that much. It's just, for me, a motivation. And besides the point that you are even worried that people are looking, honestly, majority of the time, no one is really watching. I noticed that, like, even as a person who goes and works out frequently, especially at the gym, I don't even look at people. I just don't think it's necessary. And for majority of people that I, you know, like the regulars at the gym, I've noticed they don't even look at people. Like at the end of the day, they're there for themselves. They're there to hit their PRs and that's it. But again, if they are looking, who cares? Just let them. And they've all also been there, done that. So don't let those people intimidate you. And stuff like that. It's really not the end of the world if they do, but if they or what I can say best is that just pretend like no one's watching you and you're, you know, key to getting in a good workout, because the more you kind of think about, oh my God, this person is working out, the less time you're kind of focusing on yourself. You know, when I go to the gym, I'm just there to focus on myself and my goals and all that stuff. So that's all you really need to do. Just pretend no one's watching, have tunnel vision, believe in yourself. And it's funny because I also want to touch on the point that I didn't really mention here of eating. I also use eating as like a motivation to get through my workout because, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, like I need to eat after, so let's get through this workout. So the more time that you just focus on doing things for yourself, the better it is for you when it comes to working out at the gym. So those are kind of the things that I kind of want to highlight, but I'm obviously welcome to answer more towards the end, but just to make sure time is kind of moving. So I know a lot of you guys are kind of struggling to make fitness a priority. It's so hard, especially in university. You think that, you know, like how do you make it with work and school and all those things and family and a social life? And I'm just going to go quickly here because I'm just realizing the time. So a quick kind of thing that I want to talk about is, first, you want to take a look at your schedule. Look for any common gap times in your weekly schedule, whether it's evenings, mornings, or afternoons. right after that, you want to decide what works for you. You want to choose a consistent time that you can be both physically and mentally ready. Because for me, I find that evenings work best for me. I'm like, yes, this is perfect for me because I feel like I've accomplished so much during the day, and then afterwards, once I've accomplished everything that I wanted to, then I'm like, okay, it's now time to focus and get through my workout. So whether it's the morning, the afternoons, whichever, decide what works best for you. And then just make it happen and remind yourself throughout the day that you have an upcoming workout. I find that it's just really great to remind yourself because you're not just getting physically ready, you're getting mentally ready. And that's what really pushes you to get through your workouts, right? Because if you're not mentally in the right state of mind, it's going to be hard for you to push yourself through the workouts. And there's definitely been days where I have to mentally push myself, or some days I can't be mentally ready to work out, and that's okay. Then I decide to take a rest day. But this takes a lot of practice. You got to see what works. I'll show you briefly in the next slide after this one of kind of how you can kind of find time in your schedule. And there's a quote on the side, that I forgot to mention is, if it's important to you, you'll commit to it. Some other tips that I want to kind of talk about is like you'll feel like giving up, been there, done that. And, my secret is just don't give up. It took me a lot of trial and errors, and you just got to keep finding what works best for you. And from there, like, that's all you need. It takes practice. Building fitness into your lifestyle requires time, requires patience. So don't be hard on yourself. I know it's easy to like want to give up, but again, if it's important to you, you'll commit it, you'll keep trying, and you'll keep educating yourself. And last but not least, you want to make adjustments. So some days life will get in the way where you have, things that will come up. So all you got to do is just adjust your schedule and make sure you get in your workout. And sometimes you may not get in a full workout. Like I know I can't always get in a full workout, so I'll just do a quick 10-minute or 20-minute session before work and stuff like that. So again, this all takes with time, practice, patience, and just kind of experimenting. So quickly here, like this was kind of my Monday schedule of how I kind of fit this into my life. So I was always busy. I'm always on campus at 9 a.m. and I'm back home by 9 p.m. So I'm literally on campus all day. Here you can see, I had my first job, then I had class, and then my second job, and then I was at the library for a bit. And then I found my gym time. So for me, this worked best for me because I felt like I accomplished a lot during my day. I did my 2 jobs, had my class, I did some study time, and then I did the gym. Again, every day might be different, but I always found like evenings for me, whether I started at 6 or 7 or 8, work best for me. So again, you just gotta go through each step, find what works for you, evening, morning, afternoon, where those gaps are, and make it consistent. It's important to be consistent with your routine, because for me, when I tell myself, okay, the evenings, then I know my brain and my body is like ready at that time every single day at like in the evening. So it's important to kind of build that. And again, it's not going to be, you're not going to get on the first day or the second day. It might take some time. So yeah, so that's kind of briefly how I kind of work that into my schedule. And quickly going through the last thing, I didn't realize the time went by so quickly. I know a lot of you hate working out during your time of month. Me too. I've been through it really recently, so I can definitely talk about this. Some tips to working out is that, during your period, is just to take it easy. Your body's going through some changes. So, I like to do is, if I know I'm going to get it, let's say on a Friday, I'll plan in a week in advance that, okay, I'm going to have my rest day for Friday, because usually the first or second day is pretty rough for me when it comes to cramps and stuff. So I plan ahead for a rest day. And then once I have, that day off, then I'll opt for like a light cardio or weights. And then one other thing that's really important is just to save the heavy lifting for either earlier, like before you get your period, or later in the week, so you're not putting much pressure on your body. Because I find that if you do like a leg day, like for me, like when I do a leg day, I do a hardcore leg day. If you do that right on the first day, it can be very painful and it's not really good for your body. So definitely plan earlier in the week before you get it, or just later in the week where now your body's kind of, has kind of relaxed a bit, and there's not a lot of, you're not, crushing your body as much. And also just to try light activities such as yoga, because that I find will be really nice to kind of relax your body from, heavy lifting or stuff like that. So I kind of just want to wrap this up. So all in all, this is your sign. This is your motivation. September is right around the corner. All you got to do is just to get started and just really just to have fun. I love how Lori mentioned earlier, you just got to find joy in this stuff, right? Like for me, it was never my goal to like lose weight or anything like that. I really just used it as an outlet for me. So now it's just fun. I enjoy pushing myself. And whether, you know, your type or your definition of fun is doing cardio or doing ab workouts, whatever it is, it's fun. And that's what really keeps you motivated, is you're doing something that is something that you enjoy. Thank you guys for having me today. I know I'm a little over time, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if you want to follow me on my workouts, I have my Instagram there that you can follow along to some of my workouts, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So yeah, so sorry for being over time.
Thank you, Jessica, for that. You definitely like help remind us of like different things that we should be keeping in mind when we're going to the gym, and just all fitness things related. So we here at She Leads and the Wellness Project just want to thank everyone who attended and all our guest speakers today. Thank you for spending the last hour and a half with us on this Monday evening. We truly appreciate your support, and by attending and supporting events like this, we are able to challenge social norms and achieve our mission. We would also like to thank one of our most supportive partners, Brilliant Catalyst. Brilliant Catalyst is cultivating a spirit of innovation and inspiring the next generation of innovative changemakers. To learn more about Brilliant Catalyst, go to ontariotechbrilliant.ca. And lastly, we'll be sending out a post-event MailChimp with all of the contact information for our guest speakers and resources used for this forum. That email will also include information and links for both She Leads and the Wellness Project. Learn more about and support both projects through those links. And before you all leave today, there's a very quick and short survey located in the chat box and is also on the screen that we encourage you all to complete, since we rely on constructive feedback to continuously improve our events. Please fill it out by end of day tomorrow. Thank you again to everyone for being here this Monday evening in August. We appreciate your support and hope to see you all in our next She Docs forum. And now we shall open up the floor for any questions that you may have for our speakers today. You may unmute yourself or type them out in the chat box. And if you don't have any questions, you can exit. You can click on the leave button on your screen or on your laptop. And also, we will be announcing the winner of our Booster Juice gift card in the post-event MailChimp.
I just want to say I love the exercises that you sort of started us off with, Jessica. They were awesome. Like, I find that a lot of the times that I'll just be sitting at my screen all day and I just never know, like, I fail to like remind myself to just get up and like, you know, stretch it out and like get my blood circulating. So that was awesome. For Lori, I actually had a question about sort of like identifying like cues for eating. So sometimes I find like when I'm studying and like I'm really stressed out, I don't really know whether I'm hungry or like I'm eating because I'm stressed or because I'm genuinely hungry. How do you like, what's your sort of advice for students, especially like to sort of like identify whether they're actually eating out of hunger or out of stress?
I think one of the most important things, I do think that's a great question, but I think one of the most important things is that we need to learn our hunger cues. Oftentimes people don't realize their hunger cues until they're what I would be considering maybe over hungry. So if you start to learn what your hunger cues are prior to that, you can get a better judge of whether you're actually hungry, because you're starting to pick up on those subtle little pieces of hunger that you might be missing otherwise. So like on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is, I am so starving, I will dive my head into anything that has food in it. And 5 being neutral, I'm not hungry, I'm not full, I'm nothing. you want to eat probably at about a 3. And most people don't know their hunger cues till they're 2 or even a 1. So being aware of that. Also, I think it's a really good time when you're eating while studying is actually to take a breath and sit with yourself and say, okay, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling hunger? Am I feeling procrastination? Am I feeling stress? Let's look at the last couple hours. Have I eaten in the last 4 hours? No, you're probably hungry. You ate 20 minutes ago. Well, what did you eat? Was it something that was satisfying, or was it the first thing you could reach out to, or was it something that you were told to eat? Because those things could play a part. You want to eat satiating foods that can last for like an hour or up to 3 to 4 hours. So, making sure you've had protein in the last few hours can be helpful in checking with that. Also noticing your fatigue level. When we're when we're tired, our bodies will throw out some hunger cues to try and get energy. So when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're cramming for that exam for the next day and you're just wanting to eat, you've been up way longer than you normally are. So there's probably hunger. There's probably some internal drive to stay awake. So you're going to want more food to keep awake. And so it's usually your body telling you something. You just have to be a little bit of an detective and figure out what it is. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, just sort of like reflecting on when you've eaten and like what your body needs. Like you said, like I think like a common theme and like what you were talking about is just like responding to your internal needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw a question come up in the chat box and it's for me. So I'll read it out loud and then I'll answer it if that's cool. It says, how do you know when to listen to your body and when to push yourself? Like, how do I differentiate between when I should actually listen to my body or when I should not listen to it? For example, being lazy or overeating, and trying to get myself to exercise when I don't feel like, etc. And it says, sorry if it doesn't make sense. It totally makes sense. We are, what I feel like the underlying part of that question is that, how do I know to trust myself? So if you are wondering about when you should listen to your body or when you should push your body, I would say you should listen to your body. You're at all times. If you're being quote unquote lazy, check in and see what's going on. Have you been running off 3 or 4 hours sleep? Have you not eating regularly? Have you not been moving your body regularly? That's oftentimes when our body just wants to do nothing. We are living in a pandemic right now. People want to lay down because our stress levels are through the roof. I don't think it's being lazy. I think it's more of a question of how can I cope? What can I do? Am I being overstimulated? I also think that I'm always curious when people use the word overeating, because I'm curious as to overeating whose amount of food. So are you still hungry and eating, or are you over, like feeling extremely full and still eating? So sometimes people think overeating is when they've eaten, I don't know, more what the portion size says on the box. Well, that's basically just a label for whatever reason, and they change portion sizes to make their numbers look good, so not necessarily what you need to eat. And if we look at every human body being different, you're going to need different amounts on different days. So I think my personal philosophy is to always listen to your body, because if you're pushing your body outside of what it wants, your body has to take away from somewhere else. There's always going to be a breakdown of something. So kind of making sure of that. Another question directed at me is, when it comes to drinking enough water and staying hydrated, how do you make sure you have enough water? Okay, so this is something I teach kids. It's very bizarre, and you will never look at some liquids like the same way again. You want your pee to be the color of lemonade. When you're not peeing into a toilet bowl, like if you're peeing into a cup, which most people don't, but that's the color you want it. You want it to be lemonade. If it is the color of apple juice, you are dehydrated. If it's so any darker shade than lemonade, you're probably starting to get into needing to drink more water. Again, I think like days like today where, at least where I live, it is humid as all whatever. And so your body can't regulate itself as good. So you're losing more water. So you need to take in more water. So it's always definitely on a day-to-day thing. And I'm sure Jessica would say same with physical activity, making sure you're putting in enough fluid when you're being active. But if you are constantly peeing and it's the color of apple juice, you need to drink more water. So I hope that was helpful. Any other questions? What are good foods to eat before a workout? I work out early in the morning and usually do fasted cardio weightlifting, and I'm not sure if that's healthy or if I should eat something before I work out. So again, I think it's kind of personal preference. So if I can tell you, if I run in the morning, I don't eat first because I feel like I'm going to throw up. So I don't label it fasted cardio. It's more for me, it's not vomiting cardio. So it's the idea that if you, because of your schedule and you're working out in the morning and you can't eat after, just make sure you're eating enough to support your activity, your daily living activity, as well as your physical activity, and eating after. So, and eating balance. So you want to make sure you have carbs, proteins, and fats after. That question was for Raquel. And so I think, making sure you're eating enough during the course of the day. If I'm getting up at 4:45 a.m. to do something, there is no food going in my mouth because I can barely figure out how to tie my shoes. So that would be my thought for that. Lots of eating questions. Another question is, I have a huge issue with late night snacking. Any tips on avoiding this or healthy alternatives? So my thought would be to make sure you're eating enough during the day. Most people who eat frequently in the evening, it's because they're actually not eating enough during the day and they're a little bit more relaxed in the evening. And so their body's cues for hunger are ramping up and driving them to eat. So I would try and eat more during the day and see what happens. That would be the first thing I have. And actually eat what you want, because if you want chips, let's just say, and you're like, oh no, I can't have chips, I'm gonna eat carrots. Well, you're still gonna want the chips after, and then you're gonna eat the carrots, and then you're like, well, no, I'm gonna make toast, and then you're still gonna want the chips after. Like literally, if you ate a handful of chips, you probably would have been done. So try eat more during the day and see if that helps. And if that doesn't, just try and eat the food that you actually wanted to eat and see if that helps. Oh, Jessica, the next question's for you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so do you use any workout apps to track your goals or help you progress into different levels? If so, which ones, or what do you do to help track progress? So when I first kind of started making fitness more like a priority and, I was being more committed to it, I actually used one of the workout apps where they had a workout plan of, okay, today you're going to do this, today and next day you're going to do this. I found that really helped because it gave me a solid structure. And then now I don't use it anymore because I know what I'm working out. But for those of you who don't know where to start, how to start, I definitely highly recommend looking at workout apps. There's a lot of fitness influencers that also have a lot of them. Back when I kind of first started and getting like that structure, that framework, I used Jamie Eason, I believe. There's a lot on bodybuilding.com, and they have a lot of workout plans that you can use, but honestly there's so many out there, and everyone has different goals. So there was like ones that had build a lot of muscle, ones that are just kind of just getting you active and in shape kind of thing. So it really depends on what your goals are and what you're looking for, but I definitely find that those are really great. And then now, so once you've kind of, if you want to start there, what I do now is that I actually, on my phone here, I have it on my notes. So I have like a gym folder, and then when I open it, let's say like I have my chest here. So every week or every time I hit a new PR PRs, personal record, I'll kind of highlight what I did the week before or, the month before. And it really shows me how much I lifted. Told you like, let's say 30 pounds and I did 2 reps. And then sometimes I'll put like, oh, I had a spot there, someone who was kind of making sure that I wasn't going to fall or anything when I do, a bench press. So those kind of really help me. In terms of for running apps, one that I've used recent, like that I kind of enjoyed, and because I honestly just started running since quarantine started. I hated running before, so for me, this was my new thing that I did. So I downloaded the Adidas running app, and I find that it's really helpful. Just gonna quickly open it up here. It's perfect because you'll hit the start live there, and then once you hit start live, it starts recording how far you run, how long you run, and it's really nice because when you're running, and you have your headphones in, it's like, okay, you've hit 1K. I'm like, okay, I can do another one. Like I've hit one more, which is really motivating for me because it tells me where I'm at. So I also use this, and it's really great too because it tracks, you know, this day you've done this much. I know this is kind of backwards, but it basically says like, oh, today you've run, you know, 5K, and it also records like, oh, what were you feeling that day? What was the weather? Because honestly, every time I run, it's different. There's a lot of factors, like it's so hot, I'm dehydrated, I didn't drink enough water. But this running app I find is really nice, and it's really cool too because you can challenge your friends. So you can see, I haven't done it yet. I've been trying to get my friends to do it with me. You can challenge each other and see how you guys progress. But this is an app that I use that's really helpful for me, and it tells you for July, it's like, okay, you did 12 activities, you ran 64K. So yeah, I highly recommend doing that. I've also heard Nike Run Club is also really good. I've downloaded it here, but I'm just so committed or like so attached to my Nike one or my Adidas one that I don't want to let it go. So definitely recommend that. Oh gosh, I have more questions here. Oh, there you go. Another great running out intervals pros. Yeah, so you can honestly, like, there's no perfect app that I'm going to tell you, yeah, this one's going to work for you. It just worked for me. So if you find that, you know, the Nike one works, the Adidas one, Interval Pros, like you just got to find what works best for you. Like I had mentioned in my presentation, it's all about seeing and experimenting different types of things so that it best fits you. Because everyone at the end of the day has different needs, different goals, and all that sorts of things. So yeah, thanks for the question.
All right, thank you everyone for answering and asking all of our questions for today. That's all the time we have left. So thank you again for everyone for tuning in. Please fill out the post-event survey that's currently linked in the chat. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.